1 year after the battleship, Bismarck vanished beneath the North Atlantic. The ocean has not moved her on. No waves, no voices, no rescue, only pressure, darkness, and time. Inside the wreck, uniforms decay, paper dissolves, and steel begins its slow surrender. This is not the moment she sank. This is what remains after the world has forgotten, and the sea has taken control. This is the battleship Bismarck. Launched by Nazi Germany in 1939, she was one of the largest and most heavily armored warships ever sent into the Atlantic. Over 250 meters of steel, 8 380mm guns, armor thick enough to absorb battleship fire. Built not for speed or elegance, but for dominance. In May 1941, Bismarck shattered the Royal Navy's pride by sinking HMS Hood in minutes, forcing the largest naval pursuit in modern history. Days later, surrounded and disabled, her own crew opened the seacocks. Now, 1 year beneath 4 kilometers of ocean, the ship no longer speaks of victory or defeat. The split hull rests in silence, turrets remain frozen, corridors still follow their original lines. Inside, the design of a war machine is preserved not by intention, but by depth, pressure, and isolation. This is not a legend. This is a structure. A battleship identified not by what it did, but by what still remains. One year after sinking, the Bismarck lies fully claimed by the deep. From a distance, the wreck is no longer a ship, but a shape, 2 massive sections resting in silence on the ocean floor. The stern sits apart from the bow, separated by violence that has already been muted by time. Steel edges are softened by sediment. Angles once sharp are now blurred by darkness. As we move closer, the scale becomes undeniable. Turrets remain fixed in their final positions. The hull's armor still defines the ship's outline, even as the sea begins its slow work. Openings torn during the descent reveal glimpses of the interior corridors, compartments, and machinery suspended in perfect stillness. There is no sense of motion here, no drifting debris, no flowing current. Only depth, pressure, and isolation preserving the ship exactly where it came to rest. After 1 year, the Bismarck is no longer in the process of sinking. She has arrived. What you see is not a moment of disaster, but a complete, frozen hole.
Here, suspended in the abyssal dark, time seems to have stopped. A year on, this compartment.
Inside the wreck, nothing has shifted. A navigation table remains bolted to the deck, dusted with fine sediment. A compass is still fixed to its mount, its needle frozen where it last pointed. Shell hoists stand locked in place. Turbine shafts do not turn. Bunk beds remain pressed against steel walls, exactly where they were installed. In the medical bay, metal trays sit undisturbed. In the radio room, cables follow their original paths. Drawers hang open but never drift. Even the lightest objects have not moved. This stillness is not coincidence. It is the result of enclosure, pressure, and isolation. Once the ship settled, the water inside became trapped. No currents enter, no waves reach this depth. With nothing to disturb them, objects remain where gravity placed them. Time here does not rearrange, it only wears away. What remains inside the Bismarck is not chaos but order preserved by silence. These objects do not tell us how the ship sank. They tell us that once it did, the world above no longer mattered.
In the cold embrace of the North Atlantic, these ropes remain exactly as they were found, a testament to the Bismarck's final moments.
The stillness inside the Bismarck is not mysterious. It is physical. At this depth, nearly 4 kilometers below the surface, the ocean exerts immense pressure enough to silence movement. When the ship came to rest, water flooded her interior and then stopped. Corridors sealed, compartments closed. The ocean outside could no longer reach the spaces within. There are no waves here, no tides, no storms. The currents that shape the surface world fade long before reaching this depth. Inside the wreck, the water becomes trapped, heavy, and slow. With nowhere to go, it does not flow. Without flow, there is no force to push objects aside. A chair stays where it stands. A drawer remains open. Dust settles and stays settled. Time, in this environment, does not rearrange. It erodes. The Bismarck is not frozen by cold. She is held in place by pressure, isolation, and depth, creating a silence so complete that even motion disappears.
Demonstrating that without current, even the lightest objects remain fixed 1 year after the Bismarck's loss. This enclosed passage near the medical bay shows no signs of outside currents, the sediment resting precisely where it settled a year ago.
The Bismarck is not moving, but she is changing. Change here does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds at the pace of chemistry, pressure, and time. Inside the wreck, materials surrender in a quiet order. Fabric collapses first, losing shape as fibers dissolve into sediment. Leather stiffens, cracks, and darkens. No longer flexible, no longer alive. Paper vanishes almost entirely, leaving only stains and impressions pressed into silt. Metal follows more slowly. Paint blisters and peels away from steel, exposing surfaces that begin to rust. Rubber hardens, fractures, and locks into brittle forms. Bolts bloom with corrosion, their edges softened but still holding. Copper darkens to green and blue as oxidation spreads along wires and contacts. Deeper inside, heavier structures respond last. Turbines become encrusted with thick marine rust. Shafts pit and roughen without shifting from alignment. Decks tilt by degrees so small they are only visible over time. Ceilings sag just enough to suggest the ship is settling further into the seabed. Sediment accumulates everywhere on floors, inside gaps, along seams slowly sealing spaces and narrowing corridors. In enclosed compartments, the water grows cloudier as materials break down and particles remain trapped. Life appears not as motion, but as attachment. Small organisms clinging to steel, feeding on corrosion itself. What disappears here is not structure but function. The Bismarck is becoming something new. No longer a warship, no longer a machine. She is transforming into a reef, a record, a fixed object shaped by the deep. This is not decay as destruction. It is decay as transition measured not in moments, but in years, and written silently into steel. In the deep ocean, not everything disappears at once. The Bismarck is losing herself in layers. Soft materials go first. Fabric, paper, and leather dissolve quietly, leaving no edges behind. Rubber cracks and collapses. Paint peels away until color itself is gone. Wood softens, darkens, and slowly loses form. What remains is metal, but even metal is not equal. Thin panels weaken. Light fixtures sag. Small instruments vanish into corrosion. Glass clouds, fractures, and then disappears entirely. Only the heaviest structures endure. Frames, girders, the ship's skeleton. These elements were built to carry weight, to resist force, and to survive impact. They will remain long after everything else has faded. This order is not accidental. It is written by pressure, chemistry, and time. The ocean does not destroy randomly. It edits. What the sea removes first are the details, the signs of life, comfort, and human presence. What it leaves behind is the shape of the machine itself. In the end, the Bismarck will not be remembered by her flags or her guns, but by the steel outline that refuses to disappear.
The camera reveals the final boundary before the primary structure. These heavily corroded edges are the last element.
In the end, the Bismarck does not fade, she remains. Not as a weapon, not as a victory or a defeat, but as a single moment held in darkness. 4 kilometers below the surface, Time no longer pushes forward.
1 year after
It only
sinking,
presses
the
down.
mighty Bismarck
Steel
is slowly
rests where it
reclaimed by
fell.
the crushing darkness
Corridors
of the
stay
North
aligned.
Atlantic.
Silence becomes permanent. This is not a wreck in motion. This is a ship paused, caught between history and the deep, frozen not by ice, but by the weight of the ocean itself.